We're doing free code camp, JavaScript algos and data structures. We are in basic JavaScript on challenge 77 of 113, and we are going to add a default option in switch statements. So in a switch statement, you may not be able to specify all the possible values as cases. Um, Instead, you can add a default statement which will be executed if no matching case statement is found. And I like to think of it like the final else statement in an else if chain. Okay, so like when you have a if and else if chain, the final else statement doesn't take a condition, just like a default. It basically will hit that condition if none of the other cases conditions are met and none of that code executes and it does not break or it does not return out of those statements. It will simply default to that final statement, hence why it takes no case value or if else conditional value. Okay, so for this example, we are going to write a switch statement to set answer to the following conditions. So if we look in our code, we have a function, it takes in a value, and then we have a variable called answer, which is an empty string. And we're going to write some code and it will return answer. Okay, and based on this little instruction here, if the value is A, we want it to return apple. We want answer to be apple. If it's B, we want answer to be bird. If it's C, we want answer to be cat. And if it's none of those cases, we want it to default for answer to be stuff. Okay, so we're just going to write a switch statement here, just like a function. We start switch with switch, and then we have the argument for the switch statement, take in the value, and then we have our curly brackets to open the code block of the switch statement. So the first case is going to be string of A, and in that case we want answer to equal, meaning answer to be assigned to the value apple. And if that is the case, we want to break out of this. If it is not, we want another case for B. And then if the case is B, if val is B, we want the answer to be assigned to the value of bird. And then we can break out of the switch statement. If that is not the case, we want a final case here to be C string, and we want answer to be assigned to the value of cat. And we can break out of the switch statement. If none of those cases are true, we want a default case where we're assigning the answer value to stuff, and that's just for anything besides an A, B, or C in the variable val. So we want to default, and the default will set answer, it will assign answer to be the string of stuff. And that's all we should have to do for this one. As you can see, it worked. In this example, they do have a break statement, but considering it's like a final else statement, you don't necessarily need a break, but just to match their example and maybe as a best practice, we can just put a break in there, and as you can see, it does in fact accept it as well. And the reason it's accepting it is because we're returning answer, and answer is whatever we assigned it based on each case, based on what the value was, the value we took in. And in this example, the value, at least for what they have here, in this case, the value is the number 1, which is not A, it's not B, it's not C, so it has to default to stuff. And as you can see, there is multiple tests here, but they all look like they're running properly. So yeah, that's all we do for that one, guys. Hope that made sense, and I hope to see you in the next lesson.